Hi, this is Regina Y. Favors, and this is a social psychology topics lesson. The title of this lesson is Investment in Romantic Relationships, Introduction to the Investment Model. So this lesson is very interesting because a lot of times I think the reason why we stay in relationships too long is because we focus on the investment into the relationship. You know, we put all that time to building a relationship and staying with somebody and forgiving somebody and not leaving and believing again and hoping again, and then we have to now decide that we want to disinvest. Or you can have a relationship sometimes where it's a very good healthy relationship, but you have your hurdles, you have your bumps in the road, and sometimes even then you feel like, do I want to stay, or should I leave, right? Regardless of any situation or context, investment reveals much about our attitudes, about what we think of the relationship, what we think of our contribution in the relationship, and whether or not we believe the relationship can function and move forward. So take some time to think about, to listen to this lecture, gain some insight. Please like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you're interested in further videos. This is Investment in Romantic Relationships, Introduction to the Investment Model. So this lecture is subject to fair use, where I will comment, criticize, offer some research, and then as well as teach. What is social psychology? Social psychology is the branch of psychology that deals with social interactions, their origins, and their effects on individuals. Each person's behavior is influenced by the social environment in which the behavior takes place. Social psychology is the scientific study of behavior of individuals within both social and cultural settings. It is the study of human social behavior that is distinct from the study of social activity of laboratory animals. It utilizes the scientific method to study human behavior. Beginning in the United States at the end of the 19th century, research in social psychology emphasizes scientific study of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors as psychological variables influenced by actual and/or implied presence of other people. It is important to study social psychology because it helps to predict behavior patterns before they occur and to design interventions as solutions. So here's a quick research disclaimer. The ideas represented within this audio lecture do not reflect empirical research. This research does not directly utilize a survey and/or measurement tool. However, the ideas are supported by empirical research. Statistics are gathered from statistics gathering organizations and empirical-based journals. This PowerPoint audio lecture begins the research process for developing research hypotheses and survey instruments. It also extends the research conducted during a previous series, Understanding Relationship Failure, which is available on YouTube. By the end of this lesson, students will be able to do the following. So define the investment model, explain the original investment model, explain the expanded investment model, outline the differences between relational maintenance and relationship satisfaction, and then apply examples of constructive and destructive relationship behaviors to your own past relationship experiences. And we're going to go over those types of behaviors as well. Investment into romantic relationships is time-consuming and sometimes almost counterproductive when one party is no longer interested in investing and/or has never invested into the romantic relationship. Romantic partners do not begin a relationship to end it, but if there is no maintenance of the relationship, i.e. monitoring emotional, psychological, and financial contributions, then it is likely that one or both partners will begin using destructive behaviors to exit and/or neglect the relationship. Romantic partners who believe they are in a healthy relationship will employ constructive maintenance behaviors to ensure its continuity. So this is the investment model, original investment model based on relationship satisfaction. All right, so now that we understand the issues with good and poor alternatives, the need for validation, the preservation of the core relationship, cultivation of backup mates, let's look at the investment model. So it is at this point where the investment model is significant in understanding why partners pursue investment into alternatives instead of investment into the core relationship. The investment model is an extension of interdependence theory. Interdependence theory is the framework for examining goals and investigating their impact on well-being. So it's interesting that the more you step out of your relationship, the less you sustain investment into that core relationship. You're taking all of your finances outside of the core relationship to pay for a backup mate, to pay for an affair, to financially fund that activity. It's almost like it's interesting. It just came to me. It is almost like you taking out a percentage of your income to fund a business. Like the backup mate that you are cultivating is going to require money, right? It's going to require funding. No backup mate is going to be a backup mate to you, especially if you consider that person high value, a dime piece or whatever. You're going to have to buy her things. You're going to have to keep her comfortable, have her in a penthouse or something, apartment, give her a bank account, give her money, and then of course fund her lifestyle. And that's a business. And it's interesting that you will take all that money and fund that individual and not take that money and fund, say, a neighborhood of kids, that might need help, or invest into a business incubation type organization. There's so much more that you can do with that money, and people have every right to do whatever they want to do with their money. But it's just interesting how we will fund affairs but not fund other parts of life that actually need much more attention. That going back and forth from your house to your mistress' house definitely wears on your head, your mind, your body, of course your finances, your spirit, man. I don't think it's worth it. But interdependence theory is that framework for examining goals and investigating their impact on well-being. So as long as the person who is stepping outside of his marriage or her marriage, as long as they are impacted in positively, or their activities are having an impact positively, then the goal that they have set to step out is working for them. Most people do not get out of trouble, not because they understand trouble is trouble. Most people don't get out of trouble because it works for them. They know that it is trouble. You mean to tell me no one knows that stepping outside of your marriage to cheat and have sex with somebody else is wrong? Of course they know that's wrong. They know it's morally wrong, ethically wrong, emotionally wrong, psychologically wrong. It's wrong, period, right? But as long as it works, if you're sleeping with a lot of partners, that's you investing into those partners. You are investing your money, your time, your body, your heart into those multiple partners. But as soon as you get AIDS or some sort of sexually transmitted disease, then it sort of changes your thinking about your goals. You may still continue on, perpetuating that goal, but you would think twice about it, and you would expect your new partner or whoever you engage, the very next time, that that person would have to wear a condom, or that person would have to get checked out or something like that. So I want you to think about the investment model, how we invest in people and how we invest our time and money and body. And I want you to think about the interdependence theory, which is that framework for examining goals and investigating their impact on well-being. As long as things are going well for you, you tend to stay with that investment. The investment model theorizes how quality of alternatives, relational satisfaction, and investment size affects commitment. Commitment determines whether people stay or leave. And it is Roosevelt who developed the original investment model, which is based upon relationship satisfaction. So you usually, how much you invest in a relationship will determine the quality of that alternative, the relational satisfaction you expect to receive, and then the investment side. So right now I'm not, discussing cheating for a minute, right? Let's take that off the table. Just you picking one person and marrying that other, marrying a person, that means that you had a choice before you, and that one person, they were both honestly alternatives if you think about it, because they were both in competition even if they didn't know each other. You were reading both of them as a man to determine which one is going to work out long term. And so the one that you chose is based upon a higher quality versus, I say higher quality of alternative versus the other quality of alternative. And then you felt that you can get more relational satisfaction out of that individual. So it depends. Like I said, relational satisfaction or having a satisfying relationship is really dependent upon the person. You determine what makes you happy. Now, I think in certain cases you can be unreasonable, like I noted about the 90-day fiance. You can be unreasonable. Here it is, you're coming to live in another country, and you are expecting your man to be, a big baller, somebody who can pay for $10,000 couches. That doesn't work like that. That person is a working man. He's not going to be able to, pay that kind of money. And then investment size. So how much you are willing to invest. I've kind of noticed sometimes with men, they will give the woman that they're married to some little house. Now, I think you should be thankful for the house, because you never dated him just for his money. But it is interesting, though, that he will give that woman a small house, but then the mistress a huge house. Once he divorces the core partner, he'll give the mistress, the person who was the mistress, house, money, cars, everything. So, I don't know if that's a really true investment, if that is a true high quality, high value partner, but I believe they do have, blinders on. So commitment, if a person can so easily leave like that, that means that they were never really committed to stay. Some people, I'm just now really understanding this. I've never been married, but I've been watching some YouTube videos, and I've been just reading the psychology literature, and I just didn't really know that people, created starter wives, or, the come up woman or something like that. I didn't know that actually existed. It wasn't until, a few people on YouTube pointed out that one person that celebrity married was like a come up woman. And then once he came up, he got him a new, fancier type of wife. And, I'm gonna develop one of my little 5-minute talks. And what I'm going to do for one of the audios is, you can't do bad to get to better, something like that. You can't do bad to get to better. You can't treat people, one person, horrifically like that, leave them, abandon them, and then expect things to go better for you, because the person that you were hanging out with the first time, they were with you when you were poor. You didn't have anything. They worked 1 or 2 jobs to try to help you, right, to become something. And then you turn around and abandon that person because they don't look like the ideal partner for that level. And then you marry someone else. Well, there's no guarantee that person is going to stay. You know, think about Tyler Perry's Medea's family reunion, I think. And I think her name is Elise Neal, the main character, whose husband kicked her out of the house, you know, dragged her out of the house. And then he brought in his mistress because he felt like the way she looked was a lot better as he rose up the ranks. Well, when he got shot in the courthouse, that mistress wasn't around. Nowhere around. He was in a hospital in a coma or just unconscious or something like that. She was nowhere. She actually, well, she came to the hospital just once, and then she actually wanted to unplug him because remember, he gave her access to his accounts, everything. So he was, you know, unconscious for a while, and then by the time his previous wife, who was still married to him, came, you know, visited the house, that mistress had cleared out the house, literally cleared out the house. She had taken all his money from the bank account. So you might think that you are leaving, you might think that the current partner is a poor alternative to this new partner, you know, you're cultivating a mate, but wait till you get sick. You will know for certain if that person really wants to be with you or love you and take care of you if you get sick. So that's something that I want you to think about in terms of commitment, because commitment will determine whether people stay or leave. And if someone is so easily leaves like that, I mean, just leaves, then they were never really committed to you. So Roosevelt and 2 other scholars later developed the expanded investment model. Okay, and remember that the original investment model is based upon relationship satisfaction, whether you are happy in your relationship. The expanded investment model informs us about relational maintenance, what you need to do to retain the relationship, the mate, etc. So according to this expanded model, commitment has a profound influence on whether people use positive relationship maintaining behaviors and survive the problems, conflicts, and temptations that threaten their relationships. You know, I don't understand why people do not have a made-up mind about a relationship that they are engaging in, especially when it comes to marriage. I just don't understand why people have to move about all the time. They have to go from, you know, relationship to relationship. If you are in, you know, dating mode, right, that might be different. If you are in something that's kind of new, there's no guarantee it's going to make the final cut. That's, you know, that is different. But once you marry, I don't understand why people feel like they have to have one step outside of the marital context. So I understand that we are not always great emotional regulators, and that we have been socialized and nurtured in our you know, family environments and school systems to sort of walk away from problems. I understand it looks like we are taught how to solve problems, but that's, you know, academically. But we struggle with solving just relational problems. If we have a friend who doesn't like us or something like that, we don't know how to go and try to work that out, right? Now, sometimes it may be, you know, a good idea to let that friendship go, but we're mad at each other. We don't speak to each other. We are estranged from each other, and we don't seem to know how to work that out. You know, animals do a better job working out their issues. They set, better boundaries, etc. Humans are just strange, strange people, that they don't know how to maintain relationships. They don't know how to survive the problems in a relationship. They don't know how to resolve conflicts. They're always tempted to leave the relationship. So do you really want to be in the relationship at all? Or is it just a gap filler? Like I said, if you so easily leave a relationship, that means you were never really committed to the relationship. It was just a time filler. It was something that you were doing until the real thing you wanted to do came around. So pay attention to the difference. Remember the difference between the original investment model, which is about relationship satisfaction. And I noted in earlier slides that how satisfied you are with a relationship is very subjective and relative. And then the expanded model is about relational maintenance, that there is the expectation that whatever we are struggling with right now, we're going to get beyond that hump and work it out and continue and perpetuate the relationship basically until death do us part. Under the original investment model, relational satisfaction is based on choices and behaviors that partners make in a relationship. The author suggested under the expanded model that partners make investments into the relationship, which are resources attached to the relationship and lose value if lost. So the more you invest, the more you feel like you would lose. That's why I feel like some people stay in very emotionally abusive relationships or relationships where the partner is cheating, because you put in all that time, you put in all those resources, you put in all your mind and your body and your finances, and now you got to give it up. But the thing is that you are commitment driven. The other person is not. And so then how long are you going to stay in that relationship? Because some things can affect you so negatively. Some relationships can affect you so negatively that it affects your mind. And if you stay somewhere too long, you may end up in a mental hospital. You may end up in jail. And so sometimes you have to have the courage to just let that relationship go. Take the L. It doesn't mean that you are a loser or a failure. Loser or failure reflects condition over time, though. So if you have just consistently failed at something and never gotten back up to try to resolve it and do better, then maybe you could say you are a failure. If you consistently build something to tear it down, then maybe, yes, you could say you are a loser, because every time you build something up, you tear it down. And it's on purpose or is maybe unconscious, right? Because you can't understand why you are winning. And so that's why I feel like people stay in these relationships a long time, because they just don't want to take the L. I was in my relationship 2 years and 8 months. And he couldn't let go of his ex. And then I found out in about 2 years and a few months that he was married. He was married to someone out of town. And I knew eventually that I was going to have to let that relationship go. And the knowledge about the marriage is what really prompted me to just say, I got to get out of this. Even though he had been cheating with his ex, I was still struggling to let it go, because I felt like he was struggling and he and his ex still had some unresolved issues. And I gave him too much of the benefit of the doubt. But once I found out he was married, that changed the game. I wasn't willing to put up with that. Even when he got a divorce, something about it, I couldn't do it. And so I ended up having to kick him out, but not before I let him save money, so that I wouldn't feel bad when I kicked him out. But that was a hard pill. And for a year after that relationship, I was just in anger mode. So I didn't really have any true reflection. I started writing on this topic of rebound relationships, and that's what sort of put forth the book and the audios and everything that I've been trying to put together. But I was in anger mode. And then it took maybe like a year and some months later to pick up the phone when he called. And then that was like on an Easter Sunday, and I just had him out to pick it up. And then he was still trying to get back. And then he was trying to make it out to be like he was really interested in getting back, but I could detect something was off. And something in me just told me, no, he's not serious. He's with somebody else, and he's probably trying to get me to have sex with him or something like that. I'm not going back in. And so I stopped talking to him, and I didn't even talk to him long. It was probably once every week for a month. And I don't even think it was that. And so I began to change my telephone number. I changed anything where he could get access to me. I changed all, social media accounts. I blocked him on email and everything. And so that's been now 4 years going on 5. So I'm very happy about that. But I can understand, I don't judge. I can understand why they take so long to get out of toxic relationships, because of investment. You spend all that time investing, and now you got to take a L on your investment. So that's something that I want you to think about as you reflect on your own relationships. So under the original model, based on relationship satisfaction, there are 2 types of investments. There's intrinsic investment, and then there's extrinsic investment. And if you are familiar with intrinsic versus extrinsic, you probably understand also motivation, intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation. And it's usually tied to learning. So intrinsic, we want to know it because we need to know it, right? We need to learn it. Extrinsic, we are motivated by performance and how we look, like we like to look smart. But intrinsic, we want to actually be smart. So maybe in some ways, look at that in terms of investments into the relationship. Some people want to truly be in relationship. So they're going to do whatever they need to do to actually invest intrinsically. But some people want to look like they are in a relationship, look like their relationship is going well. And so they tend to be, their investments tend to be extrinsically motivated. So let's look at the first column. Intrinsic investments are investments put into the relationship. These include the following types of investments. So that's time, effort, affection, and disclosure, which are, I think time is probably more than anything. And then of course, effort, because effort, there comes a time when people get tired, in a relationship. As long as you're giving a person, the benefit of the doubt, you'll stay in the relationship. But if it looks like the person is not going to do right, you tend to stop allocating effort. Affection can come and go. You can be happy or not happy with your partner. Disclosure is important too. You're not married. You're not, harboring old feelings for an ex. If you have an STD, you need to disclose that, things like that. So extrinsic investments are resources and benefits that are developed over time as a result of being in the relationship. So time is a factor. These include the following types of investments: material possessions, enmeshment within a social system, identity attached to being in a relationship. So one probably could be more time, and the other could be based upon gradual time. But I feel like off to the left is more time and effort committed to investing into the relationship to increase relationship satisfaction, whereas on the right we're now looking like we are in a relationship, and time is a factor, but there's a social identity to it. There is, we are married people, right? We could be socialites, part of a social system, etc. But material possessions has increased by the time we get to the right column. People often put more investments into relationships when they are certain of commitment. Investments into the relationship make it difficult to walk away, especially if the relationship is strengthened by commitment. So if when commitment is a factor, you usually think twice about leaving a relationship. You usually think twice about it, or more than that. You're not so keen and quick to adopt a walkaway strategy because you already know, you've already put in time, she's put in time, let's just work this out. You never want a partner to begin committing to whether it's an ex or a new partner, backup mate or something, because once a person starts the goal of commitment, it's hard to break that goal. If the person is just leaving to go and have sex and then come back to the house, I know you're mad, but it may be better to take them back into the house, because once they spend too much time into that other relationship, it moves the relationship into a commitment stage. See, you can invest in anything and not really care about it. You are the one who attaches, value to it, whether it's worthy or not. People buy cars and people buy all types of stuff, material possessions all the time, but doesn't necessarily mean they hold a lot of value for it. Sometimes it's just accumulation. It's keeping up with the Joneses. It is expectation that you will buy a Bentley. After all, you are a billionaire, and so it is the expectation that you will buy a house in Southampton, right? Because you have status like that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you hold a lot of value. Sometimes people have many houses, but they only really hold value to one that they call the main house. And so as long as they continue to have that main house is working for them, they don't really have a lot of commitment to the other houses. The other houses they can stay in, they can not stay in, they can leave. They probably don't even visit often. But once they begin committing to that house, and I'm not saying hiring an interior designer to furnish it, but they begin to furnish it. They begin to buy objects and put them in places and, set up a home for themselves. That's when it gets very difficult for them to walk away, because if you think about interdependence theory, it's about that goal framework to see if it basically impacts well-being. And so if commitment into that new house becomes a regular thing, furnishing it, putting food in it, sleeping at it, more than just once a summer, then you're going to have an issue on your hands, because the person is spending more time in one place over the core place, and attach relationships to it. If the person is decorating the new house and feeling like home, whenever they are with the new person or the backup mate, they're going to feel home with that person, and it's going to feel like every time they go back to their core, it's going to feel like a problem. It's going to feel like frustration, anger, contempt, etc. So commitment, I think, is very, very important. I didn't really think about that until reaching this slide. If two people do end a highly invested relationship, they probably will feel that all the time and effort they put into their relationship was a waste. They also might feel that they now have to start over, find someone new, and make adjustments to their identity and social image. The challenges associated with investing into a new relationship might prevent commitment to a future partner. So it depends on the partner, of course, but the more you lose from a previous relationship because of your own contribution, the less you might feel committed to the new partner. Unless you were doing one of those things where you were cultivating the backup mate and the wife didn't know the whole time, and you've been spending time with the backup mate for years. So you have established that, and it's so grounded that if the wife decided to kick you out for good and divorce you, you know for certain that you have a relationship that you can pull at. And because you haven't had any scandals during that year or two with the new partner, your social image is intact. Of course, when we find out that you have been cheating and the wife decides to divorce you, it seems like, to the society that she's the bitter one. She's the scorned one versus the man going on with the new woman, resulting from from multiple cheating incidents. So that's why I feel like most partners do not always leave the relationship initially, because it takes so much time to invest again into a new relationship and to develop commitment again into a new relationship. And commitment is important. Relationship satisfaction, quality of alternatives, and investment size all work towards ensuring commitment. Relationship satisfaction and commitment are related, but they are different. So there are times that you can feel satisfied in your relationship but have no real commitment. And that is really, really, really interesting to think about, that there are times that you can be sexually satisfied with a relationship. You can have all the investments. You can allocate every effort to mate retention, but somehow commitment is lacking. And so relationship satisfaction and commitment are related, but they are also different. So here are the differences. Here's the first slide, and then the next one we're going to go into. When satisfaction and investment is high and the quality of alternatives is low, people remain highly committed in their relationships. So, if they already feel like they are already with a high value partner, so there is relationship satisfaction, and they are investing in that partner to the best of their ability, capacity, investment is high, then anybody that they see or quality of alternatives would be low. They will consider their relationship as more important in a way than any other relationship. So therefore, they will continue their commitment. Daters who reported increase in satisfaction and investment and decrease in the quality of investment were more committed to their relationships. So they didn't necessarily have to go out and seek another partner. So the opposite would be when satisfaction and investment is low, meaning that there is a subjective feeling about relationship satisfaction resulting in low investment. Then the quality of alternatives is high, meaning that maybe the partner has a 7-8, and so he's not willing to, he's not really, satisfied with that relationship, even if there's great sexual satisfaction, and he doesn't invest more. Then the 9-10 would be a quality of alternative that he would choose. So that means that he will be less likely to remain committed in that relationship. Daters who reported a decrease in satisfaction and investment but an increase in quality of alternative experienced less commitment and voluntarily left the relationship. So let's look at, under the investment model, destructive versus constructive behaviors. This means that partners will either respond destructively or constructively to the relationship based upon satisfaction, investment, and quality of alternative. So with destructive behaviors, partners can demonstrate both exiting and neglecting types of behaviors. With constructive, partners can demonstrate voice, and loyalty behaviors. So let's look at them individually. So for destructive behaviors, if especially if you are planning to exit or um, you know, you want to neglect a relationship, right? So you tend to threaten to move out, or you will actually move out the house, which may be followed up by you getting a divorce. So you've developed, exiting behaviors. That's why you can't trust a person who says, I'm leaving. Because just like cheating takes some time to work out in your head, exiting does too. If you say I'm leaving, you've been thinking about that for a while. You didn't just all of a sudden in the heat of the moment say I'm leaving, I'm exiting, right? You've been contemplating leaving, moving out the house, threatening to move out and divorce for a while. And a lot of times people try these things just to see if they can get away with it. And you should never bluff, because when people decide they don't want to be in a relationship with you anymore because of your bluffing, they will exit. You don't have to exit. It will be their prerogative to exit. Partners can also demonstrate a neglecting behavior. They might let conditions in a relationship get worse. They might ignore the partner, spend less time together, treat the partner poorly, and avoid any discussions about how to solve problems in a relationship, meaning that they essentially are not interested in solving any problem. It doesn't matter what the problem is. And so what happens when you neglect something? It begins to deteriorate. It fails, it falls, it withers away. If there are some things that you don't attend to in your life, it will no longer function the way it's supposed to function. A relationship function is supposed to be relationship or relations or relational. And if one partner has already decided that investment is not worthy anymore, and that I'm just going to neglect the relationship until I guess both of us don't have a relationship anymore, then I guess that's going to be the issue, the solution. And that's a fake solution. Neglecting a relationship is a fake solution. That's not actually a real solution to the problem. Remember when I talked about the two couples, the married couples who were living in the house, and they were living in separately in each room in the house. And when I said to the lady, if y'all are still in the house, you can, there's hope. And she said, no, he doing his thing, I'm going to do my thing and everything. They were essentially, neglecting their relationship. And maybe if they had gotten together and had sex, and I'm not saying sex solves everything, but it reignites a connection, it gets you thinking about it. But if they stopped connecting so much to the point that they even just stopped having sex, they wouldn't even use each other for sex, their relationship was already gone way before they stopped having sex and started dating other people. So neglecting is a false solution to a problem, because if you are always neglecting something, it's going to have a negative effect on you much later in life, because you can't neglect everything. You got to be, you are on this earth as a problem solver. When you got together with each other, you were solving a problem emotionally, financially, psychologically, etc. And so if you're so quick to just, completely, neglect the relationship, then, and you haven't learned how to resolve those problems, going to therapy or something like that, then you will find issues in your next relationship and possibly your life. So constructive behaviors, partners can demonstrate voice behaviors, which means that you want to improve conditions in a relationship. You are willing to engage in activities that further discussion of the relationship. You would rather be polite and seek help. And then you are willing to change any negative behavior. Whether, somebody's perception of you is always subjective. What they think is negative might be positive for you. If you have an aggressive personality, well, an aggressive personality is needed in certain career fields, especially if you want to practice law or something like that. You got to compete, right? If you want to, perform a sport, work, play a sport, etc., you need to be aggressive. That's not a negative behavior in terms of aggressiveness. However, if you get off the field or you get out of the courthouse and you are being aggressive with just regular people every day, then that might be a negative behavior in that context. And so that might be something that each of you as two partners can address, right? Improving conditions, of course, meaning that, just like a sickness, a virus, if you don't give it the medicine and rest, it's going to get a lot bigger and more painful and could cause you some real damage. Partners can demonstrate loyalty behaviors, so they can be optimistic about the relationship. They could wait for positive change. They could hope things will improve. They can stand by the partner during difficulty, and then they can support the partner in the face of criticism. Now, the last one, never go against your partner in front of people. I don't think you should be yelling at your partner at the house while there is no one around either. They're already being criticized. So, you may have to choose your battles. What of all the criticism, and you need to be able to determine what is actually constructive criticism and the difference between constructive criticism and somebody just being stupid. Because criticism should highlight the error and give you direction, provide you with direction for change. If a person is just calling attention to your errors, but they're not giving you advice about change, then that's not the right person with the right motivation. Because when people want to see you do well, they're going to do all they can, right, to see you do well. Optimism, just even if you didn't have the bullet points after that sentence about loyalty, the fact that you just need to be loyal to your relationship is enough. The word loyal is enough. You honestly do not need all of the explanations at the bottom. The question that you need to ask yourself is, why are you not loyal to your own relationship? Why are you letting other people from outside of the relationship have an impact, have an influence, have a negative view, try to change, the relationship? And men in particularly use the word loyal. They use the word respect as well. But loyalty is big on them. I think if you are struggling with, say, your husband's or your future partner's mother-in-law or family or something like that, I think if you throw out that word loyal, that will be a trigger for him. Baby, why are you loyal to your family and not to this relationship? And that'll get him to think. You got to think in male speak, how they think about things, how they think about respect and honor and loyalty. That's how they actually think, because it probably has a sporting context as well. But loyalty enough, that word is enough. You don't always need all of those explanations, even though I find them very useful. But if you trigger your future partner, your husband, and use that word loyalty, I promise you, they will rethink their situation. If a high value partner feels satisfied with a 7-8 and the investment is high from a 7-8, then it is likely that the high value partner will remain in the relationship. The partner's mate value is based upon what she brings to the relationship and how it affects the satisfaction equation for the high value partner. So if the 7-8, sometimes the 7-8 has can be high value based upon the partner's perception of the person. She may not necessarily have the same attractiveness as a 9-10, but she is attractive, physically attractive. However, what's most important in this dynamic is the fact that she comes with resources. She might be an entrepreneur, she might have a business, she might have a 6-figure income, she may be able to afford living in like a certain neighborhood, right? She might also have political affiliations, which are very important for anyone who wants to use a network of contacts. But it's all of the resources that she comes with that makes her much more high value, not necessarily only based upon her physical attractiveness, but what she actually brings to the table. And for certain high value men, they don't need her to be 50-50. That's how lower value men think. High value men they tend to be a provider, house a provider mindset. So they're going to make sure everything is covered regardless. But the fact that she knows how to operate at a certain level makes her much more attractive and appealing. And it is what she brings to the overall relationship that affects the satisfaction equation. She knows how to move with this high value partner. High value male partners are more inclined to use mate retention behaviors to entice a woman to stay in the current relationship. Mate retention behavior includes benefit provisioning, such as compliments on the partner's appearance, the giving of the partner any gifts, providing material benefits, and then social and emotional types of benefits. What happens when your partner, your high value partner, is socially recognized, there's a face that you have to keep up, a persona that you have to keep up. Both partners, male and female, high value, maybe low value, will do all they can to allocate effort to retain as members of that relationship, because the loss of social currency, loss of political currency due to scandals will affect the business, right? The bottom line, capital raising, investment raising, anything like that, because wealthy people, rich people and wealthy people always think about the future, and they think about the possibility of something, especially if they are the types of people who might have political aspirations, and so they don't need a scandal. So therefore, they will stay in the relationship, and if it looks like you think you might want to leave, they will give you gifts, and they will essentially validate you in the relationship as a true partner. The low value male partner will employ cost inflicting mate retention behaviors. So men of lower mate value may resort to the use of cost inflicting mate retention behaviors, such as those that rely on manipulation, intimidation, possessiveness. The lower value partner lacks resources necessary for benefit provisioning. So even if the 7-8 is not as attractive as the 9-10, if she's still considered high value based upon the resources she brings, then it would not be a good idea for her to date down. I know people like to push this agenda that the person who is making 6 figures should date down to someone who is just an average worker, and that still says something, that they are willing to keep a job and they were doing it way before you, and they had their own apartment, that speaks to their stability. But money is going to become a problem, though, when especially when it comes to an attack on gender roles. No matter what, I don't care what money the woman makes. No man really wants their woman to make more money. And so there's nothing wrong with the money coming into the house because he's going to enjoy it. But socially, he doesn't want to be known as a person who makes less money than his wife. So he will eventually employ cost-inflicting mate retention behaviors. I was reading this, I came across this news reporting about Reese Witherspoon and her ex-husband, Ryan Felipe. And when they were married and she won some award or something, or it was discovered that she was making more money per picture, he had said in an interview that he didn't expect his wife to make more money than him. He did. And, it just reveals your heart. He might not have intended to say it, to that interviewer, but the heart speaks, and it tells off on us. It's a big snitch, right? The heart. And so I believe that began the demise of their relationship. The fact that he understood that she made more money. And so then their relationship took a different turn and likely used cost inflicting, because she had also referred in another interview that there was an abusive relationship that she was a part of. She didn't name him, but they are divorced. And I'm not implying anything either. But she hasn't had any issues since with her new husband, and they've been married for years now. So because the lower partner doesn't have the capacity for benefit provisioning, he or she will likely begin to resort to cost inflicting mate retention behaviors. He would get more possessive, she would get more manipulative, and then of course intimidation. This is the expanded investment model based on relationship maintenance. So let's look at the expanded model based upon relationship maintenance. And don't forget, the original model was about relationship satisfaction. The expanded model is about relationship maintenance. And both have a time component, right? If you remember the intrinsic investment slide, as well as the extrinsic investments slide, they both deal with time as a factor. The expanded investment model extends the original and suggests that people who are in highly committed relationships will work through the difficult times by employing the following 5 strategies. Application of these strategies should lead to relationship stability. So that's the relationship stability is an extension of relationship maintenance, because that's why I say the relationship satisfaction is so relative and so subjective. You can be hot one day and cold another. But if you put in more time to maintain a relationship, it should lead to stability. So here are the strategies: a decision to remain, tendency to accommodate, a derogation of alternatives, willingness to sacrifice, and then perceived superiority. And we're going to go through all of them and then also connect it to the 7-8. So for decision to remain, partners who are less committed to stay in the relationship and work through problems are more likely to exit. The decision to remain encourages the survival of the relationship. Couples who are committed to each other are less likely to exit the relationship following a relational transgression. So that's interesting because, survival is a very interesting word, because a lot of times people remain in survival mode due to some sort of trauma bonding, triggers, etc. But I think we need to get out of this long-term, development of survival and get into actually overcoming. That there is a time in the process where you actually have to survive. If you're making a comeback in life from a setback, from setback to, survival. I'm writing right now. To overcoming, and then to come back. All right, so setback to survival to overcoming to comeback. Okay, so there is a process from setback to comeback, right? And but I think people live so long and reside so long and get stuck in survival. That's very good. I'm going to have to do something with that. They stay so long in survival to the point that they never overcome that situation, meaning get out of that state of mind into another state of mind of overcoming, which requires even an additional learning process to then making a comeback. So you have to ask yourself this question: do you want the relationship to survive? Do you want it? Because if you have a setback such as a relational transgression, and that's usually cheating and infidelity, then you have to address, okay, so do we end the relationship, or do we continue the relationship? We're going to have to survive this relational transgression. Then we're going to have to maybe get some therapy, and then overcome it, and then make a comeback. So if you look at survival, after the relational transgression, it reminds you of being in a pit. Now, you remember Silence of the Lambs, and the lady who was kidnapped was thrown into the pit. Well, it's sort of like that. If you get that image in your head of every time you try to get up and try to pull yourself out of it, you're thrown back down. Okay, that's survival. That means both of you are still in that pit trying to survive. The relational transgression is basically, out the window. It's already been done. You have mental aspects, right, that hurt your heart, and you tend to struggle with, right? But the survival is all the fights, to stick it out, all the talking, all the sex that you have, all the crying, the yelling, things like that. So at what point do you get out of that mode into comeback mode, where, not comeback mode, but overcome mode, where you overcome all of those issues that you struggle with during that survival process, to the point that now you are in comeback. You both have returned to the relationship, and you are now moving forward. So decision to remain is that's interesting. That's not something that is, I wonder sometimes how many times people who are now divorced would actually would like to go back and try to remain in that relationship, because once you leave the relationship, it's hard to get back. You are now individually responsible for each other, and now you got to live life singly while still co-parenting, right? If you still, co-parenting, and you wonder to yourself, it would have been better just to stay. It's like the guy who sang the song, I forget his name, but it's Cheaper to Keep Her. By the time I leave, I got to pay all of this and all the alimony and child support and everything else. I might as well have just stayed. So that decision to remain is something that we all need to think about and consider. Tendency to accommodate. So partners who are committed to the relationship are less likely to exit and or neglect the relationship. Accommodation includes using constructive behavior, right? Remember those voice and loyalty behaviors to cope with dissatisfaction in the relationship and work towards repairing it after negative events. And so that negative event is usually a relationship transgression. And so repair is part of that I think likely part of the overcoming process, um, because at some point your understanding has to be repaired. How you thought that having sex with somebody else while you were married was a solution. Well, that's a broken understanding, right? That's a broken understanding, because otherwise, all you basically have to do if you wanted to have sex with somebody, just divorce your wife or divorce your husband. Why go and step out of your marriage and cheat and then, justify the any decision that you made? Well, you didn't give me enough sex, or you weren't there for me, and I tried to pull at you and you wouldn't do it, or whatever. Okay, if it's not working out and you decide, because really when you stepped out, you were deciding not to remain in a relationship. You wanted to be in another relationship. Okay, so then quit bluffing. If you want to be in another relationship, don't bluff. Make the decision to exit the relationship. So people who are highly committed to each other are less inclined to retaliate as their first reaction and more likely to engage in constructive behavior. So, I've never seen a woman who was mad at her husband for cheating be quiet about it. I do think that some things can happen with a person that when you do something like that, it can affect you to the point of silence. I am that kind of person that if I caught my ex cheating and I came in on them, I would just go silent. I wouldn't do a bunch of, as a matter of fact, I wouldn't even have to hit the person. I wouldn't have to throw anything at the person or anything like that. I would just go get a bag and pack his stuff quietly, walk it to the door, walk it outside of the door, take my key back, get her out of there, and just leave. Let him go, right? Unless it wasn't my place. But I might later cry and be angry or something like that. But I'm pretty much not dead, but pretty much I'm just even keeled until it hits me one day. I can be in the shower, I can be on the bus, I can be walking, I can be eating a meal or something like that, and it would just hit me. And that's when I would have to go through my own process. Derogation of alternatives. So partners who are committed to each other are more likely to derogate their alternatives. In other words, committed people tend to find reasons to downgrade potential alternative partners. Derogation of alternatives might also apply to friendships and work relationships. You are more likely to keep the friendship you have than to start a new one and feel compelled to allocate effort to sustaining it. You are more likely to exit a short-term friendship and or neglect it for stability in the current friendship, because that person. That's why people always go back to people, because they know that person, they trust that person. So they may go and have sex with somebody else, but somehow in the middle of the night while they are in bed with somebody else, that they're already thinking about their ex-partner. They're already wondering about what she's doing, what he's doing, and thinking about the potential, and they already got a running script going in their head about how they can try to make things right or something like that. Do whatever they need to do to try to make amends or anything like that. And so it's interesting that you would think like that once you have cheated than to think like that once while you were in a previous relationship. So derogation of alternatives is that sort of pre-cheating process you have where you say, nah, nobody is like my woman. Yeah, that over here, yeah, she's all right, but no one is like my woman. Do you remember Baby Boy and Tyrese Gibson was cheating on Taraji P. Henson's character? But then there came a girl from her job who was trying to get with him, and she invited him to her house, and something about the situation, he turned it down and he was mad. And then he left. Oh, she was mad, and then he left. And then the next day, when he picked up his girlfriend from the job, he stuck his tongue out at the other girl who was trying to have sex with him behind his girlfriend's back. Well, in that case, he was essentially derogating that alternative. I mean, he had sex right there in front of his face, and he refused to have sex with that woman. And maybe there was a process that he was going through, and he was growing, and he was still babyish in his understanding. But to turn down that opportunity to have sex with somebody else, which he went over there, to that place to go to, speaks to his ability to downgrade potential alternative partners. And so that's telling about him, that he was willing to do that. Willingness to sacrifice. Highly committed partners are willing to make sacrifices. Sacrifices can be thought of as special types of investments that involve putting aside one's own immediate self-interest and focusing on the best interests of the relationship. Partners will make sacrifices when they are committed, feel satisfied, make large investments, and have low-quality alternatives. Sacrifices might include helping a partner through a crisis or working with a partner who is experiencing a career change. So these two examples are standard. If your partner maybe lost his job or feels like he needs another job to make ends meet, then you may be willing to sacrifice. You also might be willing to sacrifice if you both realize that he needs to get more education, right, in order to move up, right? The problem that I have with that sometimes is women are the ones who do all of the sacrifices when it comes time for a man to want to get an education. And then they've done all of that sacrificing, put all of their dreams on hold, only for the man to graduate from college and become a doctor or something like that, to leave that wife and marry someone else who did nothing for them. And willingness to sacrifice, I mean, women are always willing to do that. Even some of the bad ones, are willing to sacrifice to do something to invest in their men. But I want to challenge women, though. A grown person should be able to pay for himself. A grown person should be able to pay for herself. That means if they have to get student loans to get the job done, then they got to get student loans to get the job done. Because it's not right that you have to sacrifice, and then the person turns around and marries someone else, and then, say for instance, you co-signed on any of his loan products or anything like that, you're going to be the one who is responsible for it. And I think there are just certain things an individual, grown individuals, should do themselves. Perceived superiority. So I think it is really linked to the derogation of alternatives. Partners who are in highly committed relationships perceive their relationship to be superior to other relationships. It negates the old adage, the grass is not greener on the other side. People tend to see their own relationships as having more positive and fewer negative characteristics than the relationships of others. Positive thinking might entail such statements as, our relationship doesn't have as many problems as the average relationship has. And you might see this a lot of times when one partner leaves another partner for a mistress or something like that. You might see this in partners who have been together for 10, 15 years, and you hear them say, we never argue. You hear the kids of that partnership say they never argued, right? And so I don't know, they just have the right temperament for each other to the point that they have been together for this many years, that many years, and they're not there together just to be together. So one person, doesn't have to pay rent by himself or herself. They genuinely like each other. They want to be around. They have invested. They perceive their relationship as much more superior to other relationships. We might as well stick it out. So let's look at a summary of both. So the original is about relationship satisfaction, and then the expanded is about relational or relationship maintenance. So there is relationship satisfaction, investments, alternatives, and all three should lead to commitment. So it's like the first part of your process. And then a decision to remain, tendency to accommodate, derogation of alternatives, willingness to sacrifice and perceive superiority. So all five should lead to stability. And stability is not necessarily relative. 1 year in a relationship is not stability, because you have the course of your relationship, and the course of your relationship could be over a course of 5 to 10 years. And what do you do when you do milestone checks at 5 years, and then 10 years, and 15 years, 20 years? Are you still married? Are you still engaging in healthy discussions about your marriage? Are you resolving conflicts in healthy ways? Maybe going to counseling, any type of journaling, etc. In conclusion, investment into romantic relationships requires preparation. It is not enough simply to get into relationships and hope everything works out. There have been many relationships and marriages that have worked, and the partners have learned along the way how to make the relationship work. There are also partners who would have benefited from a better understanding of relationship making and might have considered the long-term impact it has on decision making. Investment in romantic relationships should be a sure, well-informed, measured, studied, and prepared decision. It should succeed self-reflection. All right, so hopefully you were able to gain insight from this video discussion. Please like, subscribe, and visit. So please like the video, hit the notification bell for more discussions. I am re-uploading all of my audios, so I needed to make some changes to them. You can visit my website for more content at reginayfavors.com. If you want to send me an email, you can send an email, reginayfavors@yahoo.com. Please also purchase the book. It's going to come out in spring 2021. So I had to make changes to my book to update it, and I also updated the title. So the original title was Bait, Hook, and Switch: Confessions of a Rebound Girl, and I have updated the title to Toxic Encounters: Why People Pursue Rebound Relationships. So right now I'm still basically editing it, and I want to make it available in spring 2021. So thank you very much for visiting my channel, and I am Regina Y. Favors. Have a great day.